Hello and welcome back to Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. A viewer came up with an idea to do a video of the royal family and their tiaras. Well, that sounded like a great idea, and I never realized that there were so many. So it was fascinating looking at the various types of tiaras and how they became in their creation and how they got passed down through the family. So first up is the diamond Bandeau tiara. Meghan Markle wore this tiara when she got married to Prince Harry, and it was made for Queen Mary and created in 1932. The center brooch, however, dates back to 1893. The tiara was made to go with the brooch. According to MaryClaire.com, it was placed in the Queen's vault in 1953 and has also been seen on Princess Margaret, Harry's late great-aunt. Next, we have the Burmese ruby tiara. The late Queen was given almost 100 Burmese rubies for her wedding day and had them made into a tiara in 1973. And she combined the rubies with diamonds made from a different dismantled tiara. The Burmese people feel that the rubies help the wearer from 96 diseases that can afflict the human body, so they wanted to make sure Queen Elizabeth was well protected. The rubies and diamonds were set in a series of rose motifs, representing the Tudor rose, and this tiara is more modern than others, and it was a favorite of Queen Elizabeth, and it did work because she sure lived a long time, so that was good. The Margaret GREVILLE emerald tiara. This tiara was sent to Buckingham Palace in 1943 in a black tin trunk. It contained the jewels of the late Dame Margaret GREVILLE. She wanted her collection to go to her friend, the Queen Mother. It's a signature piece, but according to the courtjeweler.com, she never wore it in public. She also revised the top line of the GREVILLE tiara so that it was no longer resembled a traditional kokoshnik. It went into her jewelry collection in 1943 until the Queen Mother's death, and then it was bequeathed to her daughter, Queen Elizabeth II. Strangely enough, Queen Elizabeth II never wore it in public either, so I don't know if it was too heavy or they didn't just like the style, or I don't know. Princess Eugenie wore it for her wedding. The tiara is an exquisite example of the early 1920s Art Deco design. Next we have the hollow tiara. This was made by Cartier in 1936. It was given to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, by her husband, and then the Queen Mother gave it to Queen Elizabeth II when she turned 18. It's since been worn by Princess Margaret and Princess Anne, and in 2011, the Duchess of Cambridge memorably chose it in her bridal tiara, and it has 739 brilliants and 149 baton diamonds. Next, we have the Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara, and this tiara is associated with Princess Diana. According to MarieClaire.com, the tiara was made for Queen Mary in the early 1900s before being passed on to late Queen Elizabeth II. And she gave it to Princess Diana as a wedding gift, and it's also been seen on Kate Middleton. Then we have the York Diamond Tiara, and this tiara wasn't from the royal collection, but it was purchased for Sarah Ferguson when she married Prince Andrew. It was a present that Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip purchased for her. After the divorce, she still has the tiara and has worn it on several occasions, like at Elton John's 2001 white tie and tiara ball. Next, we have the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, originally a wedding gift to Queen Mary, who was then a princess, in 1893. The tiara gets its name because it was given by the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland Committee for her wedding. Queen Mary gave it to the late Queen Elizabeth II as a wedding present in November 1947. And then Mary decided to make the tiara one of Elizabeth's wedding gifts, and she presented her with both the tiara and its base, still separated as two distinct jewels, and both went on display with the rest of Elizabeth's bejeweled wedding presents. In recognition of the gift, Elizabeth still reportedly called the DIADEM Granny's tiara, and it quickly became a central part of her jewelry wardrobe, first as a princess and then as a queen. She even wore the tiara in Edinburgh during one of her first public appearances after the funeral of her father, King George VI. Next, we have the Strathmore Rose tiara, sometimes called the late Queen Elizabeth Strathmore tiara, and it was given to the Queen Mother by her father before her marriage to King George VI. It was purchased in the 1920s, but made in the late 19th century, and the flowers in this tiara, which is worn low on the head, can be removed and worn as brooches or swapped out for a 5 collet set sapphires. So that's pretty cool. Now we have the George IV state diadem, and according to MaryClaire.com, this crown was made for King George IV for his 1821 coronation and was worn by Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mary and has stayed in the family since. Queen Elizabeth II wore it to her coronation and wore it while traveling to and from the state opening of Parliament. It has a modest 1.333 diamonds and costs just 8,216 pounds to make. The aquamarine PINEFLOWER tiara. This is in the possession of Princess Anne. Originally, it was the Queen Mother's, and it was given to her by her husband for an anniversary present in the 1940s. And then the Queen Mother gave it to Princess Anne in 1973 when she got married. Now we have the Oriental CIRCLET, and this is a delicate tiara. And Prince Albert, who was like a Renaissance man, he was deeply interested in design and jewelry, so he designed it for his love, Queen Victoria, and the Queen Mother loved it, and then she gave it to Queen Elizabeth II. Now we have the Brazilian PARURE tiara. MarieClaire.com stated that Brazil gifted the late Queen Elizabeth II a bunch of aquamarine jewelry for her coronation, so she commissioned a tiara to match. So the piece is said to have grown in size as the Queen was gifted more jewels. TheCourtJeweler.com said they presented her with a bracelet and a brooch to coordinate the set in August 1958. And in 1968, when the Queen made her first state visit to Brazil, the governor of São Paulo gave her an aquamarine and diamond hair ornament. According to Field, stones from this ornament were used in 1971 to supersize the aquamarine tiara. Now we have the Queen Mary fringe tiara. The tiara was made in 1919 for Queen Mary. It's popular because it's also been worn by Queen Elizabeth and Princess Anne on their wedding days. It's made of diamonds set in gold and silver by E. Wolf and Company for Gerard in 1919. The diamonds are a bit older than that, though. They were part of a necklace made by Collingwood that Queen Victoria gave to Mary as a wedding gift in 1893. Queen Mary, the jewelry innovator, struck again, dismantling that gift and reusing their diamonds to make this fringe. Now we have the Grand Duchess Vladimir tiara, and this tiara belonged to Russian Grand Duchess Vladimir and was purchased by Queen Mary, and she passed it on to her granddaughter, Queen Elizabeth II. The FESTOON tiara. Princess Anne received this tiara when she was in Hong Kong christening a ship. The Worldwide Shipping Group gave it to her in 1973. Anne has worn the tiara on a regular basis since she received it, and it's usually at events like state banquets. And then she often pairs the tiara with her diamond festoon and other jewels, including a large diamond bow brooch. Now we have the lotus flower tiara. The Queen Mother had this tiara first, and she had it made from a necklace her husband had given her. Princess Margaret wore it a lot, and it was loaned to her daughter-in-law, Serena Stanhope, on her wedding day. Next up is the GREVILLE tiara. This is another piece of jewelry that the Dame Margaret GREVILLE had willed to her friend, the Queen Mother, and it was loaned to the Duchess of Cornwall following her marriage to Prince Charles, and she wears it quite often. Now we have the DUPAR tiara, and this tiara was made for Queen Mary in 1911, and it's been altered since then, and it was passed on to Queen Elizabeth II, who's loaned the tiara to the Duchess of Cornwall, and it's among the biggest crowns in the family. Now we have the MEANDER tiara. Queen Elizabeth II was given this by her mother-in-law. Elizabeth then gave it to her daughter, Princess Anne, and then she let her daughter, Zara Phillips, wear it on her wedding day. Next up, the Spencer family tiara, and this is a tiara that Diana wore on her wedding day to Prince Charles. Her grandmother had inherited it back in the 1930s, and the tiara was also worn by both her sisters on their wedding days, and Lady Sarah Spencer, as well as her sister-in-law, Victoria Lockwood, on her wedding day. Next up is the POLITMORE tiara. According to MarieClaire.com, this tiara was originally made in the 1870s and was acquired by the Queen Mother on her wedding day. The tiara was sold at auction in 2006 for £926,400. Next up, the George VI tiara. Queen Elizabeth's father gave her the sapphire jewels originally purchased by George VI as a wedding gift in 1947, and she had a matching tiara made in the 1960s. The last tiara we'll mention is the Gloucester honeysuckle tiara, and this tiara was originally made for Queen Mary of Teck around 1914, with an interchangeable center so new jewels could be placed there for variety. So that sounds pretty cool. Queen Mary passed this tiara to her daughter-in-law Alice, the Duchess of Gloucester, as a wedding present in 1935, and added a central element to it, a diamond honeysuckle. The tiara is currently in Alice's daughter-in-law's hands, Brigitte, Duchess of Gloucester. So it's neat to look at some of the tiaras in the royal family, and there were a lot more than I thought there would be, and each one has a story and has a beauty to it. It's nice that they have been handed down to family members through the years. Those receiving them will love remembering when their ancestor wore it for special events they attended. They are truly jewelry to be cherished. So I hope everybody enjoyed the video, and if you did, if you could give it a thumbs up, it would help the channel out. Also, if you haven't clicked on the notification bell, please consider it. It will let you know when a new video has been made. So tune in again soon for another episode of Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Thank you. Bye.